As we prepare for the new school year, we at MCELA wanted to highlight an article that might help you think about adding some new class routines and rituals to your classroom. Keep an eye out for the next edition of Northwards. There's an article in there that expands on this presentation and hopefully gives you something new that you want to try with your class as we jump into our next school year. So I'm going to feature 4 activities. I do all of these activities every day with my students. The first is just a welcome slide. It tells them what is due when they walk in the door and what they should do next. The second is I do some sort of check-in with my students every day, whether that's the question of the day or a mood check. Students also do a daily dedication in which they take turns dedicating class. And finally, I sprinkle some mindfulness activities throughout our lessons with some breathing and break slides. So the first thing students see when they come into class, whether they're in person or online, is this slide. It has the date written at the top with the same information that I use to organize Google Classroom so they can find exactly what they're looking for. The first thing they're asked to do is to turn in whatever is due that day. I have a reminder up here. It's written exactly the same as the assessment or assignment is written on Google Classroom, so they know exactly where they need to go to click turn in. Once they've completed that, they do whatever is listed under due next. Usually this is going to be either a Jamboard or a mood board to check in with one another for the day. So my check-ins take 2 different forms. On the left, you can see a mood board. These are gifts, so normally they're all moving around. And I will put this in my daily slideshow. Students see them on the board and they either tell me in a Google Classroom poll or in the chat how they're feeling by matching their emotions to one of the gifts. There are tons of free versions of these mood boards that amazing teachers have made online. And if you want to snag some so you don't have to make your own, there will be a link in the article in Northwards. The other thing I like to do, if it seems like my kids are more chatty or really want to be having conversations that day, is I'll do a question of the day. I do this on Jamboard. Sometimes the questions are serious or reflective. Most of the time, they're just silly or goofy. I love this one. What is your favorite smell? It prompts kids to share a lot of really awesome memories that are attached to scents for them. And kids just write their answer all on the same Jamboard. They grab a little sticky note, write their answer and their name. I read some of them aloud and we talk and laugh and have a good time checking in with each other, seeing how we're feeling before class begins. After we do our check-in, one student each class does a daily dedication. The idea here is that students are going to dedicate each class they're learning each day the way an author dedicates a book. So they're going to choose someone or something that they find important or inspiring or is going to keep them going through a class period. So it can be anyone or anything. I have my students make these slides in advance. It's actually one of their first assignments. They have to make a couple in a big slideshow that we all share. And then every time I sit down to create a slideshow for class, I can just copy and paste one of their completed slides. Kids love dedicating to their pets, like you can see. They also like using this as a chance to really share inside jokes and be silly with their friends, but also with me. One of my students knows that hairless cats freak me out, so of course she needed to dedicate class to her favorite hairless cat. But sometimes students get really sweet, and so they'll dedicate things to their parents, or in this case to Charlie Brown, someone that they're looking up to that you're not maybe that confident, but you're going to be positive anyways. So I love seeing what kids come up with for their daily dedications. It really helps me get to know students better and who and what they care about and look up to and think about. And then the final thing that I include every day are some breathing and break slides. I sprinkle these throughout my daily slideshows so that way between each activity or at any moment of transition, we're going to take a pause, take a breather. So I love using breathing gifts, like you can see on the left here in blue, where students are going to breathe along with the shape. I'll leave that up for a couple breaths and give everybody a chance to settle in. Sometimes I'll prompt students to get up and stretch. That might be actually getting up out of your seat. Sometimes if we've been writing or typing for a while, it might just be some hand stretches and wrist stretches. And then finally, I like to also prompt students to check in with their bodies and where they physically are and how they're feeling. So I'll remind them to relax their shoulders, unclench their jaw, their hands, take a second and breathe. I have a massive slideshow with tons of different breathing and break slides, so we're not seeing the same ones every day. A link to that is also going to be in your copy of Northwards if you would like to incorporate some pre-made breathing and break slides for your students. So these are just some small routines and rituals that I love doing with my students. I do all of these every day because they're really quick and simple. They require minimal prep. It helps me get to know my students better in really short and sweet bursts, and it helps build a positive classroom environment. We do all of these things before we even settle in to start talking about what we're going to be learning that day. And I love taking some time at the top of each class to spend time with my students as humans instead of spending time with them just as student and teacher. So these are some routines and rituals you might think about incorporating in this next school year.